All right, welcome back to is it episode 4, Shane?
I don't know. I
Okay,
have no.
I
I
think
mean,
it's episode 4.
we're working out the kinks, but hey, that's all part of the growing process. So we're coming at you with a little trout fishing today.
Yeah, a little trout fishing, and
That's
Shane is the king of trout fishing.
I mean, that's just that's one thing I like doing. It's one of the things I'm better at. One of the things I used to not. I used to be like trout fishing on open day of rifle season kind of deal. But I don't know. It's definitely a passion of mine for sure.
So we just recently got back from Montana. Um, awesome trip.
Oh yeah,
Tripled up on turkeys, but we'll stay away from that till we can get Connor in the podcast room. But trout fishing was awesome.
yeah, it was good. I mean, in Montana terms, it was, you know, par,
Yeah,
probably, because out there, I mean, it's like a trout fishing mecca out there. I mean, we still did pretty good for the time we had and the conditions we had, but
right.
yeah, I mean, so we had turkey hunted all that week, and then
In
um,
Billings,
yeah, out east of Billings, um, Cheyenne territory, like out there, Custer National Forest
a little
type deal.
further than we thought it was going
It was
to
it was a ways out there. Let's just say that. Anyhow, so we hit we hit the Yellowstone with like a day and a or like probably a day and a half left. Fish for a full day and then a half day on when we left. But so out there, not a whole lot of rising going on, which last the year before we went, there was like super really like nice midge hatches, like midge clusters everywhere, and it was basically blizzard conditions. But the fishing was fantastic, so obviously, you know, the odds of that happening again this time were slim. But it was really good last year, and then this time around didn't get into as many just full on cutthroats, um, but caught a lot of cut bows, and I mean a lot of like 15, 14, 16. Like it was really hard to break that like 16, 17-inch mark. It seemed like,
right.
but still, I mean, good fish. But
Now I know in North Georgia, in the North Georgia video, you tied your own flies. Did you use
yeah,
any of your own
I did.
flies?
Yeah, I did tie some out there. I mean, I don't tie anything crazy. Just stuff that I like, patterns that I know are simple to tie that I know just catch fish. Always catch fish for me. So obviously a couple stone fly patterns like Pat's rubber leg and um, the get down Pats, or I think that's what it's called. But essentially, just I was fishing close to the bottom, so fishing those tungsten jig style, like size like 14, 12 stonefly nymphs,
Right.
um, which we can get into the whole life cycle there, but essentially, you know, just like I mean, a lot of fishermen will agree catching fish on top water is like, you know, one of the funnest, ways to catch those fish. And so
Oh
obviously,
yeah.
if I can do that when I'm fly fishing, like with a dry fly or whatever, I'll try to do that. But in this case, not much of that going on. And plus, these fish feed, below the surface, like I don't know, some 90% of the time or whatever. I mean, it's different places you go, but so I was just fishing essentially under a bobber. You know, the guys will call it a
You just
strike
used it as
indicator.
a strike indicator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
strike indicator. That's what the fly fishermen want to call it. But so yeah, just fishing deep. Just drag free drift, and wound up catching a few decent cut bows, and linked up with Luke while we were out there. My buddy from West Georgia, same hometown, but um,
He lives in Montana
yeah,
now.
he lives in Montana, so he caught a few good cutties, and yeah, I mean that was a decent couple days. Loads of whitefish, though. I mean,
Everybody was catching
oh yeah,
whitefish,
everybody was catching
which I was
whitefish.
standing there with a camera majority of the time. But yeah, everybody was catching whitefish.
Which I mean, that's I mean, technically the whitefish are native. If you really want to get it in depth, I mean, the rainbows and the browns or whatever have been introduced, and so I mean, back in the day it was whitefish and there's native strains of cutthroat around, but
So
you know,
cutties and whitefish are the only two native fish y'all were really catching.
that we were catching.
Yeah.
But we were catching a lot of those cut bows, which is a hybrid. You know, it'll look like a rainbow, but it's got those orange slits underneath its jawline, and you know that's how you know it's a hybrid. But yeah, I mean, all in all, a couple good days of fishing. That was just a wicked trip. Which we're just gonna have to make that into.
That'll be a
Yeah,
3-hour podcast.
yeah. It was a heck of a trip.
I had
so,
a rough go at it.
well, that was still. Wait, we're gonna we gotta release some footage from that afternoon
Oh,
of me and
dude.
you, because y'all, I'm telling you, that is the closest you can get to.
That was the
That's
craziest hunt of my life.
yeah, to say the least. Anyways, let's just let's just let's just try not to get hung up on all that.
But you've been trout fishing a lot lately, Clayton,
I have.
North
This is the
Georgia,
best.
Montana.
I mean, this time of year rolls around, and that's, you know, it's hard for me to even turkey hunt, you know, because a lot of my turkey spots are right near the trout fishing. So like, it's a struggle for me. But this time of year, for sure, as soon as turkey season's over, I'm pretty much hitting the trout stream. And I mean, to get into the good stuff, you got to go a little bit farther north of the house here. So I do a lot of warm water fishing around here too, but trout is definitely one of those things for me that makes me tick. You know.
Well, now one thing that, because I trout fished a little bit, I did more so when I was younger, but one thing that was always controversial, I guess you could say, is stock days. Do you fish where they stock? How far downstream do you fish where they stock? That's one thing in Georgia that people look at religiously, like
Well,
the Bible. Is
you
when
know,
they're
and it's
stocking.
and it's kind of a scene, right? Like back in the day when I was a lot younger, you know, and just looking to just go, you know, beat the ever loving snot out of them. Oh yeah, I mean it's public, you know. The money we pay for our licenses, you know, that all goes towards stocking these streams,
Right.
so they make it public. And there's definitely guys that'll see when and where they're going, you know. And I definitely did that back in the day, but these days, you know, I kind of steer clear of it a little bit. I just like to get away from the people,
Right.
you know, and I love, you know, I've caught stock trout all my life, and you know they are what they are. You know, they're great opportunity, and they're there for you to catch. And a lot of the times, you know, you can get in some good ones. Um, but you know, at the same time, I like fishing. There's several streams that I fish that are primarily wild fish, or you know, um, holdovers and stuff like that. So, but anywhere you go around here, it's a lot of it's stocked. You know,
Right.
but
Right.
the way the way you can kind of get away from the people, you know, you start hiking upstream or downstream, you get away and you find some unpressured water. Well, you'll start, you know, getting into some you know, wild fish and good holdovers, and you know, you can get into good fish that way. At the end of the day, a lot of these fish have been introduced in the beginning, anyways. Like the only native fish we really have is the brook trout, and they're really not even a trout. They're char, right?
Right.
And so, inevitably, you're fishing for stock trout, but there's places you can go to go catch those wild rainbows that have been introduced, and you know, they're colored up really well. But even like the big rivers, you got populations of fish that get stocked that stay in, and then you got fish that, you know, produce in the stream, you know, in the wild.
Right.
So I don't chase the stock truck anymore, but I've definitely been there on days where I've been in the river and here comes the truck dumping them in right on me. You know, I'm certainly not getting out at that point, right? But I think the better fishing, anyways, is just going to be getting away from that crowd a little bit. Those fish are going to spread out all over the place.
I've always wondered though, how hard is it to fly fish Georgia streams because they are more narrow? How hard is it to fly fish those streams?
At first, you know, if you don't have a good handle on your rod and just the way to move your line around, I mean, it's a complete nightmare if you're not familiar with it. But it's one of those things like with time, you know, and then that rod just basically becomes an extension of your arm, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
there's streams where, you know, they're really pretty tight, but if you can, you know, get a handle on that rod, lots of bow and arrow casting and roll casting and stuff. And I mean, I'll fish a 10-foot rod and in a small stream. Um, just because, in my opinion, the longer the rod, the more advantage you have over those fish. You know, you get a longer reach, you get a longer cast, you get more control over your line.
Because I
So,
know in Montana you were just full on.
oh yeah, yeah. You're not
You're
doing
not restricted at
yeah,
all.
you're not doing double haul like hero casts.
No.
You know, out on the wild creeks. But on the Toccoa, it's plenty big where you can be totally stretched out and cast as far as you want to.
Right.
But there's a lot of good fishing in these smaller streams because they're not near as pressured, and you'd be very surprised the kind of fish you can catch out of a smaller stream. So once I started getting into that, you start doing the bow and arrow casting kind of deal, kind of like a slingshot sort
Mm-hmm.
of deal, and then the roll cast, and you're gonna lose flies no matter what. I mean, as soon as you get a strike and then you miss that fish, your lines, if you can't control it, go straight into the tree behind you.
Yep.
So it takes total awareness to be able, to maneuver in some of those streams, but it's definitely doable. And I fish shorter rods, and depending on what if I'm throwing a dry fly and stuff like that, it may be a little bit different type of rod, whether I'm, Euro nymphing or tightline nymphing or something like that. If I'm fishing dry flies, I won't be really throwing like my 10-foot 3 weight, which is, I'm not making long casts with that. I'm kind of just fishing pockets and stuff to
Right.
where it's so long, um, and I have so much reach. I don't really have to cast so far. I can just get my flies out, and I'm reaching into pockets and stuff like that. Um, so it's doable, but it definitely takes patience and practice, and patience is something I have a little bit lack thereof. But if you want to catch the fish bad enough and you like fly fishing, well, it's definitely doable, and you'll get comfortable with it and learn where you have to keep your rod and the things to avoid. But it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun at the same time in those smaller creeks.
Yeah, because I've always used spinner reels
Mhm.
and open face reels.
Well, I mean,
That's what I've
that's how
always used.
everyone starts, right? I mean, I grew up just smacking pellet heads on like power bait and corn and rooster tails. There was a long time I had my way had my way with them with a rooster tail, buddy. I mean, I started to feel sorry for it, but man, it's fun. I just recently the other day I took the rooster tail out, and I don't know how many years, and it's fun, man. It really is. But I mean, there's a spot for it. There's time and spot for it. If I'm fishing for
Right.
wild fish at like a pristine stream, like it just feels right for me to be throwing a fly. But if I'm going up to like, I don't know, I don't even care. I'll name drop Amicalola, right? I mean, it just gets absolutely beat on, and I'm not like about to tie like a leader with 5 blood knots in it and this,
Right.
that, and the other.
Right.
So
Because it's got so much pressure.
yeah, I'm just like, and I just want to catch a fish. Like, it's not going to
Yeah.
mean as much to me catching a fish that's been kept in a tank and has no fins and it's just chewed up, right? Like, if I'm catching like a super clean fish and just like a beautiful environment, like I want to lay that fly down and just see him come up and sip it,
Right.
whatever. But I don't know. I say my rule of thumb is just get away from the crowd. You know what I mean? And fish, fish how you like to fish. But there's certain places. I mean, where I'm absolutely wearing them out, and those boys with the rooster tails can't do anything. Because those fish get dialed into the bugs. Like
Yep.
the ones who are out there doing like the trout thing, they're dialed into something completely different than what those fish are trying to figure out once they get put in the river.
Yep.
And so that's when you start figuring out, you start looking around, what's hatching, what are these fish doing, are you seeing them rise, are you not, like flipping over rocks and stuff like that is a whole nother, aspect once you start figuring out, these fish stay in this river, right? And so, you know, obviously they eat bait fish and stuff, but you start turning over rocks on the bottom of that river, I mean, there's stuff everywhere
Everywhere.
there. I mean, you can read all day. You could read your life away about bugs and hatches. Like the
Yep.
etymology part of it is insane. Like you can wear it out, or you can just go simple. With a squirmy worm. So that's kind of what I like about it. But just got back from Clayton on my birthday trip, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Appreciate it. The big 2-4.
Son.
But we went up. There's a spot up kind of close to North Carolina, Georgia border area, and let's see, I think there was 10 of us that went up there, but we were covering the whole spectrum of, guys with spinning rods, guys new to fly fishing, guys been fly fishing for a long time, but we put some good fish on the board then, and that's what I want to talk about because up until now, like this is the best time of year to be on the stream because everything's coming to life. Like that's
Right.
the whole springtime thing. I mean, there's bugs hatching, and so what we were doing is there was fish rising here and there, but it wasn't an absolute rise fest. But those fish were looking up in general, and so my favorite thing to do is take that foam hopper pattern, like they call it a chubby turnoval. And it's just like stacked foam with rubber legs and just a giant foam, fluff ball.
Right.
And those fish were just coming up and inhaling it off the top of the water. And that's like my favorite way
That's
to
crazy.
fish. Once you get those fish coming up and taking that big fly off the top of the water, I mean, the next best thing is just like, I don't know, catching like an absolute slob on a streamer. But even still, just to have them come up for that big foam bug, that's the epitome for me. And I got several, 16, 17, 18-inch
That's
fish
good.
doing that. I mean, that's
That's
like
good.
all solid fish. And yeah, man, I don't think I changed my rig but twice just because my fly started to get chewed up and was sinking. Like one of those trips, you know.
Hey.
It was, I mean, we slapped and wore them out.
So did y'all keep any? You cook any, Shano?
We didn't. We didn't this time. Usually we do keep a couple, but on these trips, everyone's like, we're just like, all right, everyone bring, just everyone cover yourself, and if you can bring a little extra, that's fine. And people just show up just ready to feed 15 people, dude. Like, we always have so much food. And we were going dawn patrol, like waking up at 5 a.m., hitting the river,
Yeah.
and then all day getting back at dark and, celebrating the birthday a little bit that night and going after it the next morning. So by the time we got back, we were just like, nobody was wanting to gut and clean trout, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
In my opinion, I think the wild fish taste better just because the stalkers are just, they're fed fish food in the hatchery, right? And then they get put in the river.
Right.
Whereas wild fish, I feel like taste better just because they're born in the stream, they're eating, all the good stuff. But then that's where I'm torn. It's like if I want to kill one, I'd rather it be a stalker.
That's right.
But then the wild fish taste better. But then I'm like, I don't want to kill the wild fish.
Right.
So I'm just
Right.
like, if it's, usually we'll keep them if we pack in, and we don't have as much food with us. We'll keep a couple, just at night. But dude, we were rolling up to the campsites with Yetis and freaking goose.
Did y'all stay at a
sausage
campground or just?
No, no. So there's a Forest Service road that goes up one of the tribs to the main river we were staying on. So we hit that Forest Service road and travel up the tributary, and then start heading up the mountain. Well, then we get off on a road where there's a wild brookie stream right there, and so we're way up above all the. There is a public campground, but we try to stay away. Just stay away from the people is my motto.
Right.
And
Right.
so we went and kind of found our own spot, and dude, this brookie stream's like, when I say brookie, like a wild brook trout, right? So those wild brook trout get out competed. So some of the only places you're gonna find those wild brookies is like up high in elevation, up above the waterfalls where the fish just can't
Can't
get
get
up
to.
just can't get up the waterfalls,
Right.
And these fish are so colored up, like I think in my opinion, by far the most beautiful fish in maybe even anywhere. I mean, obviously there's some tropic fish that are, but still, I mean, if y'all, they just got these neon pink blotches and blue halos around them. Like the colors are hard to explain, but it's so cool because no one put them there, and you're finding them in this little
Right.
trickle, like 4 feet across, if that, and they're up there. They're so dang hungry because obviously up high. Well, there's plenty in that kind of environment. There's lots of beetles and ants and stuff around, but
Right.
not as much as is in those like somewhat lower elevation streams, right? And so they're aggressive, and you can just fish a single dry. You lay it in there. I mean, you see them hunt it from across the pool and just come up and slaughter it, right? And they're only, I mean, a big one is like, I mean, a big one's like 7 inches.
Dang.
Like if you're catching like 7, 8 inch wild brookies, like that's impressive, you know. And I got into some probably 5 and 6 inch trout, but God, they're the prettiest little fish you've ever seen outside. I don't even know, like a mahi mahi or something, man.
Dang.
Like you, like these fish are incredible. If
And
you
they're
don't,
native.
oh yeah, no one put them there. No one put them there.
So no stalkers even put them in there, though.
No, they were here when the before the white man,
Dang.
before the railroad, before any road.
So they're completely native.
Yeah, like you pick them up and it's like the prettiest fish you've ever seen.
That's crazy.
And I'm sitting here like, this is one of the tiniest creeks that you can drop a fly in. I'm like, no one put you here, you know? It's just crazy. It's wild. If y'all want to look, it's on my Instagram, Rodman's Outdoors. Let me know. Give me, go check it out. But we were catching, we caught some really nice rainbows, a lot of those fish. So they stalk this river sometimes with a helicopter because it's so hard to get in there, right? So they'll go to the hatchery and pick up a load of fish and then fly it over the river and let them go. But the stretch is so long, like it's such a big river that what these fish will do, they'll get put in, and the dumb ones get caught, and the smart ones, they hold over. And so you catch some fish that you can tell are probably stalked, but have taken on, some of the characteristics of a wild fish.
Or
right?
have learned.
Yeah, have learned, and they get big in there. We didn't catch any like super bigs this past time we went, but we were catching 15, 16, 17 inchers.
That's still good.
I don't think we quite touched 18, but I mean, just when you're just smacking 15 to 17 inch trout on a foam hopper, like
you can't beat it.
Please, we pulled up on Dawn Patrol first morning, just me and Chris. It was just me and him before anybody else had gotten up there, and that was, you want to talk about knocking the rust off. After that morning, I was like, I could care less if I caught another fish. I mean, we caught him like that. Chris caught Chris was pushing 18, probably in the 17-ish range.
Right.
Nice brown. I mean, had the blue purple halo on its cheek, like nice adipose thin frosted tips, like perfect brown. And I caught one was probably close to 18-inch rainbow, and that was probably the two biggest fish. And then so Chris, he caught a slam that first morning, which is a rainbow, a brown, and a brook.
All wild?
Not all wild. Not all wild. His brown may have been wild, just with how clean it looked.
Right.
Perfect fins, and they had the blue. They get like this blue hue on their cheek. It was just super clean fish. So he caught his slam there, and then I caught my brown and my rainbow there, and then completed my slam up at the campsite.
That's
with
awesome.
the wild brookie. Yeah. So, I mean, solid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we got to get you out there. I'm about to get the drift boat pumped up.
Yeah.
And we're going to hit the big river, and we're going to make something happen.
Oh, I love it.
Dude, yeah, we'll get you out there. We'll get that fly rod in your hands, get you whipping that thing.
I don't know about
Dude,
that.
Yes, you're going to love it, man.
I'll give it a
Jackson,
shot.
So my buddy Jackson, he's from South Georgia. He's the one I'm going shoal bass fishing with. Just put him on his first trout on the fly when we were out there. Put Dylan on his like 2 years before, and then Luke his.
And then Connor
his. So you're next.
I'm
Converting one.
And then Carter.
And then Carter. Oh yeah, Carter.
Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, converting them one at a time.
One at
buddy.
a time.
One at a time. That's how we do it, son. But I mean, truly, like when you know how to catch the fish, and then you can emulate that with a fly, right? Or do something completely different. It's just one more, arrow in your quiver. Like,
Right.
I like being able to go from from a bait caster to a spinning rod to a fly, like whatever,
Mixing
warm water,
it up.
fresh water, but you can take a fly rod anywhere, and then once you start getting into trout and you figure that out, you're like, oh, what else can I catch on this thing? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so
See, now I think that would be fun with a largemouth.
oh, dude, it is fun. It is fun. But what's even largemouth is fun, but smallmouth and spots.
Because they fight.
Oh, buddy. I mean, largemouth fight good too. But man, catching the spot on the fly is a lot of fun. And I'm going down to the Flint River here in June, and that's gonna be electric. I took the 7 weight out there last year,
Yeah.
and I mean we were just slap tearing the shoal bass up, and I'm like, I just put the spinning rod away and went to the fly, and my God, it's like, it's the closest thing we can get to smallmouth, like out of a river. Like it's basically a spotted bass doing smallmouth things in a river.
Yeah.
Right. But man, it's electric. I need to take the camera for that.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
that's gonna be absolutely dirty.
Well, we're just about out of time. Few things I want to touch on. North Georgia Trout video is live on YouTube right now. Don't forget to visit our website, tfatpoutdoors.com. Instagram, Facebook, everything's the same. TFATP Outdoors LLC. Hit subscribe, and we've got a few giveaways coming up. And then obviously deer season is
Oh yeah, that's right.
just a few months,
Oh
and
man.
it's party time.
Shoot. We better get some fishing in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate y'all listening. If you made it this far, and like we always say, leave comments down below. Any topics, any questions that you have, anything that you want us to cover, we'd love to go over it with you,
Yeah, man.
or go over it for you. But as always, we appreciate the support, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks, y'all. I mean, that's about it. Stay tuned for the next one. We got Montana pod coming up,
Yep,
and we got a bird dog pod coming up. So
Montana video coming up.
Montana video is in the works. There's a lot there, so we're trying as best we can to get it all figured out
Yep.
and together. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, because that's gonna be a good video and a good podcast. That was
Yeah.
we had fun that trip. I think y'all be looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's
so.
gonna be crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, I appreciate y'all listening. I hope y'all have a good day.
Yep. Appreciate it. Next time.
See you.